Hello everyone, my name is Jason, and today we'll be presenting to you The Legend of Anurag. What is the current state of the project? Well, currently we are missing some elements such as the story, the multiple enemy types, more content, and the endgame and scoreboard, and finally the visual effects and sound effects. It is worth mentioning that the visual effects and sound effects are already done, however we did not get the time to implement them correctly in the game. Next up, each team will present what they have done through the project. First up will be the game design and the story team, which is pretty much the entire team that has been working on the entire project. Next up then will be the audio team, then the graphics and level design team, and finally the UI and development team.
We also wanted to tell you that we came up with a story and we designed the story and everything, but the problem was we couldn't implement it at the end. So here's a short look at the story. We made it on a Google Docs together, and we also did a lot in an Excel sheet on Google Docs. If you want to see exactly what we did, we gave you a link in our zip folder. Hello, I'm Alan Schuster. I'm responsible for the audio team in the project The Legend of Underwalk. Today I will show you everything I've done in this project. Here's an overview of everything I've done in our Trello board. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish the active and the passive soundtrack. The programs I used were LabChirp, Audacity, and Music Maker. Music Maker I mainly used to make the in-game menu sound. Unfortunately, I cannot play it in Music Maker here to show you because my recording program will stop recording if I do that. So LabChirp I mainly use to make the short sound effects, like for example the short attack sound. I will just give you an example of that. I thought LabChirp was very good because you could set the length of the track, you could modify the frequency, the amplitude, and it was really well to play around with it and to get a decent result of a sound. Audacity I used to make, for example, the pickup sound, which sounds like this. And the pickup sound I made by recording myself, picking something up in real life, and the problem was there were some unnecessary noises which I had to cancel out. There were some noises which I had to make louder, and that's why I used Audacity to edit the sound, and I found it pretty good. I cannot show you every sound I've done because it would consume too much time. The audio team was also responsible for the project documentation and the meeting reports, and we also helped a bit on the storyline and creating some logos. That's everything from my side.
Hello everyone, my name is Marco. I'm part of the graphics team for the software engineering project Unhook together with Lionel. I will be talking about what I did as part of that team. I will start off by talking about the ground textures. As you can see here, these are all the folders that I did. On the map here, you can see on terrain, ground, concrete for example, this is one I did. These are all the textures that are necessary to be able to create an Unreal tile. As well as I also did some of the buildings. The work was split pretty much in two. For example, these buildings here, the canteen and the Maison du Nombre, is what I did, but I also did some other ones. Now, to determine the perspective, Leona and I went to the campus once, so we walked all around and took some pictures. Also to get some more inspiration for the buildings and to determine how they look like, and also to determine a bit of the scaling of the building. Now, you will see also that there are some decorations here, especially that I did not do. That was mainly Leona that did that, but everything else I contributed to. Apart from the graphics work that I did, I also have contributed in some other aspects of the game. For example, these are some icons that we needed in-game that were required for the story. Now, talking about the story, I also helped create some of the groundwork of the story, which was then later on developed on a bit, and also helped create some of the dialogue that developed script actually that was used on later on in the game.
Hello, I'm Lionel Oliveira and I'm with Marco Ilic in the design team. Here's the folder with all the different textures that I created for our game. For example, the buildings, the decoration, the tiles, and some other stuff. And for the scaling of the map, we used this picture here, which we took from Google Maps. And we also went to the university to get a better overview of it and to know exactly how the buildings look like. And before starting to do the textures, I created two templates, the tiles template, which is the floor of the map, and the building template. The building template has a grid, which represents the same grid that we have in Unity, and every single cage has a size of 32 to 32 pixels. So here we can see the map, and on the map I added some decorations that we didn't have before doing the presentation. The decorations are also the lanterns, which gives the light when we make the map darker. And what I also did is I created every single collider that you can see right now, and the colliders are there to make the player and the zombie not be able to go through the buildings and also through the walls that we got, and the players shouldn't go pass through.
Hello, my name is Kabia and I'm the lead developer for the UI in the project The Legend of Anarok. So here we have a game object user interface which holds every user interface relevant game object inside of it. For example, we have the HUD container which holds every visible user interface item. That is health bar, mana bar, the 3 spell buttons, inventory button, pause button, the timer and the joystick. To open the inventory, we just click on this icon, and then we have this inventory to the right, which is also scrollable to allow the player to have even more items. And when I pick up items, they will appear in this inventory. We can equip it by clicking on them, and they will appear to the corresponding slot. For example, this helmet has health stats, and the health bar also changed accordingly. We also have these 3 spell slots. So when equipped in the first slot, we can activate this spell by clicking on this number 1 spell button. Then we also have this pause button, which opens up this pause menu where we can resume options or quit game, or even open up the scoreboard. In the options menu we have general settings, but also graphics settings. Then we also have the scoreboard, which normally when the player is new, it also shows this input field, but when the player is not new, it will not allow the player to enter a new name. So let's assume this is a new player and we call us test, we submit it, and then we can send the score and get the score, and it will display the score here, but it is also in the back end, which is from PlayFab, and there we can see every stats for every player which submitted his score. Also, the main menu looks exactly like this. So when launching the game for the first time, it will appear like this. One other thing to notice is that the layout is responsive, so it will change accordingly.
Hello everyone, my name is Jason and I'm the lead developer for this project. Today I will show you the progress we've made on all the systems throughout the project. First, I want to show you how we can actually create a character. To create a character, we first have to define what a character is made of. So, a body definition. A body definition can just be created by right-clicking on the body project view, going to Create, Game, Body, New Body Type. However, since I already have one, I will be creating a new one. I will just be choosing the one that I already created. Here, in the 4D humanoid, we can see that we have a root. In the root, we can then define all the body parts and their names. Then we can define all the body sides, all the body layers, then define which side is the default, which layer is the default. Then we can also add different rendering settings and orders. And finally, when everything is correctly set up, we can click on the Create Body Structure to just let the system create a body structure for us. So if we click this button, we now have a 4D humanoid over here, which has been created for us now. Next, we can just create or add a character script. And on that character script, we first have the normal values, the normal stats like health and mana. We can change those values by just opening up that section and changing those values. Next, we have the traits and character traits. We will see that more in greater detail later, so I won't go over it right now. Then we have the equipment. We can first, before we can actually equip equipment, we first have to define which body definition we are using. In our case, we are using the 4D humanoid. From there, we can just go and equip our some equipment or equipment sets. In our case, in my case, I'm just going to go and equip a simple human body. There you go. As you can see, a simple human body was created. Now on top, we can also add a bandit pants, for example, which will be just put on top. Next up is the inventory system. The inventory system works on top of the equipment system, but the equipment system is only cosmetic, while the inventory system has meaning, or is a system that has a real impact on all the traits and systems within the game. We can choose, for example, to go to the head equipment and equip a bandit head, and now we can actually see on the body that it's also equipped. We can also add equipment or inventory items into the character's backpack. For example, I can just go and add a casual boy torso, which is pretty much a jacket, into its inventory. Now that's for the character system. We'll just show very quickly how the spell system over here works, or the character traits rather work. For example, if we want to change character traits, we can go into the character traits, define what character traits are allowed with this asset, and then we have a new section here, which is attributes. And over here, we can see that I can add new attributes, for example, mana, and that mana will then be, for example, 5. And that is a modifier that will then be applied automatically at game start on top of this attribute here. Now, with all of that set, how can we actually create equipment and or inventory? We can just go to create, game, equipment, new item, simple, and same thing for the inventory, new equipment. I will just go over real quick how we can actually create a new set of a new item. There you go, you have new equipment. Here we can change the name, the icon, which body type, which is required. From here we can actually change the slot, which layer, and then define the sprites if necessary. They can be left empty if it is not required. All right, I'm just going to go delete this one again because it is not necessary. Then we can actually go on to how the spells or spell system actually works. These spells are actually made out of spell archetypes. Spell archetypes are pretty much just a module which make up a spell. For example, I have a projectile here. The projectile is a projectile type archetype, which has a spell system attributed. It has a behavior of projectile. It has some visuals. It has a name and a description. Then, if the behavior has some settings, it can be chosen or changed here. Same thing for the visual settings. Next up, we have the actual stat system, which is a bit more complicated over here. We can see that for each spell archetype, we can have one or more levels. Each level can have one or more attributes, and each attribute can have one or more modifiers. Each level can then change the archetype to such a degree where, for example, the range goes up from 10, which is at level 0, to up to level 40, or rather range 40 at level 6. There you go. Another system I'm going to show you real quick is the pathfinding system. The pathfinding system has nothing interesting right now, at least in this interface, but we can actually show how the path is calculated thanks to this overlay. And after that, we can also test if the pathfinding works correctly by just pressing the click button. And yes, we can see that indeed the pathfinding is working the way it is intended to. One last system I'm going to show real quick is the AI state machine. If we click on an enemy, we can go down to the AI state controller and we can see that the current state is idle. Now that state will change depending on the decisions and guards that the AI will have to take. You can create a new state by just going to create, game, AI, and now we can actually create new decisions new actions, and new states. Well, that's everything. Thank you for your attention.